Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving into a framework you brought our way, the Opportunity Analysis Canvas by Dr. James V. Green.
That's right.
And what we're really trying to get a handle on is what goes into spotting and then actually digging into entrepreneurial opportunities.
Yeah, because it's one thing to talk about it, another to do it.
Exactly. And it's kind of eye-opening that, fewer than 2% of the over 1 million entrepreneurship students each year actually end up launching businesses.
That statistic is pretty stark, isn't it?
There really is. That's a big disconnect, and we want to explore some of the reasons why.
Absolutely. It suggests there's a lot of interest, a lot of education even, but that jump to actually starting something, well, that's the tricky part.
Right.
So maybe let's kick off with the basics. What really makes an opportunity an entrepreneurial one compared to just, a standard business idea?
Good question. So it's not just seeing a problem and thinking, oh, I could fix that. According to Dr. Green, it's more about uncovering new relationships, new connections.
Certain ones, right?
Yeah.
Yes, uncertain is key. New ways of interacting in the marketplace, finding novel solutions, often where things are still sort of fuzzy. The future isn't totally clear.
Exactly. Finding value where it wasn't obvious before. And, this leads nicely into how entrepreneurship itself seems to be changing.
How so?
Well, we often picture the classic startup, maybe tech-focused, but the book points out this huge rise in independent contractors, freelancers.
Oh yeah, the sidepreneurs too.
Right. People with day jobs building something else. That whole ecosystem is exploding.
Really is. The scale is just, wow. We're talking over 10 million freelancers online.
Massive numbers.
And the total cash flowing through platforms like Odesk, well, now Upwork, Elance, Freelancer, it's over $1 billion cumulatively.
That's serious economic activity. It's a whole different way of working, of creating value.
Totally. And for a lot of these folks, the economics can actually be, pretty good. Sometimes even better than a traditional job.
Which is fascinating. It's like these platforms have democratized access to the market in a way. If you have skills, you can connect directly.
Cuts out the middleman.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It definitely makes you rethink the whole career trajectory thing.
For sure. Now, it's easy to think of today's tech giants when we say entrepreneur. But the book reminds us this isn't exactly new.
Oh, absolutely not. This drive, this spirit, it's been around forever. The book looks back, right?
Yeah, like the Gilded Age, Rockefeller, Carnegie, Vanderbilt.
Building empires, oil, steel, railroads, entirely new industries back then.
Totally reshaped the world. And even earlier, the Industrial Age. Think Ben Franklin, James Watt.
Innovators, inventors, fundamentally changing things with technology and manufacturing.
It's a great point. The context changes, the tech changes, but that core drive to see a need and build something, that seems constant.
It really does. And speaking of context, the book really hammers home the impact of globalization today.
Right. Unprecedented, it says.
It really feels that way. You've got easier access to capital from anywhere, partners across borders, customers everywhere.
It just opens up the scale massively.
And think about the growing global economy, the expanding middle class in so many places. That means more potential customers with more money to spend.
Demand.
Exactly. Plus, the speed at which new tech gets adopted globally now.
It's incredible, faster than ever.
Which just fuels more innovation, creates more openings, entirely new markets sometimes.
It's a dynamic picture. To make this more concrete, the book uses Amazon's early days as a case study.
Ah, yes, 1994, selling books online. Seems so obvious now, doesn't it?
Hindsight's 20/20. But back then, yeah, pretty out there.
So why books? What was the thinking?
Well, the book breaks it down really well. First, the book market was super fragmented. No single giant dominated.
Okay, so no big beast to slay immediately.
Right. Plus, a book is, a pretty standard thing. You order title X by author Y, you know what you're getting.
Unlike clothes, maybe, where fit and feel matter.
Exactly. Searching online is easy. And the market size for books, huge.
Makes sense. What else?
They could leverage existing brands. People already knew the authors, the titles. They had a cost advantage, no physical stores. And shipping books wasn't prohibitively expensive.
So a lot of factors just clicked into place for books as that first product.
Yeah, it seems like a really smart, calculated choice for that specific time, the mid-90s internet.
But even with all that going for them?
Right. This is the kicker. They didn't actually turn a profit until 2003.
Wow. Nearly a decade.
It really underlines the need for long-term vision and patience, resilience.
Absolutely. It's rarely an overnight success story. Which brings us to decision-making. It's fundamental, isn't it?
Totally. And how does an entrepreneur's decision-making differ from, say, a manager in a big company?
Well, the book suggests both need efficiency, effectiveness, sure, but entrepreneurs often operate with way more uncertainty.
Higher stakes, maybe, less safety net.
Often, yeah. The consequences of getting it wrong can be, well, final. Managers might have more data, established processes.
More structure. Entrepreneurs are often drawing the map as they go.
Precisely. Which leads to that classic question. Are they mainly rational or intuitive decision makers?
The head versus the gut. What does the book say?
It says both. It's not really an either.
Okay. How does that work?
Well, the initial idea, that spark, often intuitive, a gut feeling about an opportunity.
Right. You just see something.
But then when you start analyzing the market, looking at competitors, understanding customers, that needs a rational analytical approach. You need the data.
So intuition points the way. Rationality checks the path.
Kind of. And things like customer discovery, even fundraising, they need a mix too, don't they?
Yeah, you need the numbers, the solid plan, but you also need to connect with people, tell a story, maybe read the room.
Exactly. It's a blend. Which brings us right to the core, really. And this is where it gets personal for anyone listening. Thinking like an entrepreneur. That mindset.
Yeah, the book really emphasizes this. Your own mindset is like the foundation.
It all starts there.
So let's unpack that.
Yeah.
It starts with goals, right? Personal goals.
And not just vague ideas, written down, specific, challenging, but achievable, relevant to what you want, and planned out.
Like a roadmap for yourself.
Yeah.
And it also talks about mentally rehearsing things.
Yeah. Visualizing future events, thinking through potential obstacles.
And actually figuring out solutions before you hit them.
Proactive problem solving. And then, crucially, tracking your progress. Self-monitoring. Are you actually moving towards those goals?
Keeping yourself accountable. It's about consciously steering the ship.
Instead of just drifting, yeah. The book also talks about the need for achievement.
Right. That internal drive, the desire to, accomplish things, overcome hurdles.
It's a key motivator, and the good news is it's not fixed. You can actually work on strengthening that drive.
That's encouraging. It's not just something you're born with or without.
Not at all. And sticking with personal factors, the book briefly touches on individualism versus collectivism.
How did that play in?
Just how cultural background might subtly influence whether you lean towards individual goals or group consensus in your decision-making. Different societies prioritize things differently.
Interesting, like how different cultures might define success or happiness even.
Exactly. It adds another layer to how people might approach opportunities. Now, let's tackle a big one. The romance of being your own boss.
Yes. Escape the rat race. Answer to nobody.
The reality check comes quickly, doesn't it? The book points out you're basically trading one boss for many.
Your customers, your investors, your partners.
They all have demands. And the hours. Forget 9 to 5. It can easily become 24/7, especially early on.
So it's a different kind of pressure, not necessarily less pressure.
Spot on. It's a huge shift in responsibility. Now, a really important psychological bit the book highlights is having an internal locus of control.
Meaning you believe you influence outcomes, right?
Yeah.
Not just luck or fate.
Exactly. Think Elon Musk, PayPal, Tesla, SpaceX. He clearly operates from a belief that his actions shape the results.
That belief must be incredibly powerful when things get tough. It drives you to keep trying.
It fosters that sense of agency. You're not just a passenger. Okay, let's get practical. Focus and productivity. Big challenge for everyone.
Always. What tips does the book offer?
Some good, actionable stuff, like seriously limit email and phone distractions. Use timelines for tasks.
Break things down.
Yeah, schedule actual breaks. Sounds counterintuitive, but it helps concentration. Keep a tight to-do list. And that idea of done is better than perfect.
Ooh, I like that one. Avoid getting bogged down trying to make everything flawless first time. Just get it done, iterate later.
Exactly. It's about momentum, making the best use of your energy, which ties into optimism.
Right. The power of positive thinking, but maybe with some caveats.
Definitely. The book cites studies showing optimism is linked to success in lots of areas: sales, sports, academics.
It helps you try things, tackle hard stuff.
For sure. But it warns against the optimism bias.
Which is?
Basically underestimating the bad stuff that could happen while overestimating the good. Seeing things through rose-tinted glasses, maybe too much.
So blind optimism isn't the goal.
No. Balanced optimism. Hopeful, positive, yes, but grounded in research, strategy, a realistic assessment.
And the book says you can learn optimism.
That's cool.
Yeah, through a 5-step process. Notice the situations that trigger negativity. Write down your beliefs about it. Think about the consequences. Challenge those negative thoughts.
Find alternatives.
Yeah, more balanced or positive interpretations. And finally, evaluate past experiences to see if those negative beliefs actually held up. It's like cognitive behavioral therapy, but for optimism.
That's a really practical takeaway. The book also spotlights Anthony Casalina, right? Squarespace founder.
Yeah, built it from his college apartment. A great example of that mindset in action. Vision, persistence.
Definitely inspiring. Okay, let's shift gears slightly to motivation. What really drives entrepreneurs? The book points to three key things.
Right. Self-efficacy, cognitive motivation, and tolerance for ambiguity. Okay, let's start with self-efficacy. How's that different from just confidence?
Good question. Self-efficacy is very specific. It's your belief in your ability to succeed at a particular task.
Okay. So I might be generally confident, but have low self-efficacy about, say, coding if I've never done it.
Exactly. Or high self-efficacy in finance, but low in public speaking. It's task-dependent. The book notes high self-efficacy is a really strong predictor of actual performance in that area.
Got it. Makes sense. They mentioned Ted Turner.
Yeah, founder of CNN and other ventures. Seen as having high entrepreneurial self-efficacy belief in his ability to launch and grow businesses in tough, varied fields.
That targeted, I can do this belief.
Yeah.
Okay, next, cognitive motivation.
This is about how much you genuinely enjoy thinking, tackling complex problems, figuring things out.
So some people just love a good puzzle.
Pretty much. High cognitive motivation means you're drawn to details, research, logical analysis. Lower means you might rely more on intuition, experience, maybe heuristics.
Is one better for entrepreneurship?
Well, both styles can work, but the book suggests entrepreneurship often throws up really messy, ill-defined problems. Think about trying to improve education quality and affordability with technology.
Yeah, that's not simple.
Right. So having a high level of cognitive motivation, that willingness to really dig in and grapple with complexity, is often a big plus.
Okay. And the third motivator, tolerance for ambiguity.
This one feels almost self-evident for entrepreneurs, doesn't it?
Yeah, you're constantly dealing with the unknown, things changing.
Exactly. New ventures are inherently uncertain, dynamic. Being comfortable or at least functional when things aren't clear-cut is a huge asset.
Being okay with not having all the answers right away.
Precisely. The book uses Starbucks as an example. They're constantly innovating, trying new things. Remember when they closed all stores for retraining? Or testing evening concepts.
Yeah, they weren't afraid to shake things up, even when established. And Tony Tsai at Zappos is another example.
Yeah, navigating the crazy growth and competition in online retail. High ambiguity tolerance needed there.
It's about adapting, pivoting, staying flexible when the ground shifts.
Okay, so we have mindset motivation, but these need to translate into action. Behavior.
Right, the doing part. The book focuses on 4 key behaviors.
Which are?
Confidence, risk approach, interpersonal skills, and social capital.
Okay, confidence first. We touched on self-efficacy, but this is maybe broader.
Yeah, it's about having faith in your judgment, especially when things are tough or your decisions aren't popular. Despite the scary startup failure stats.
You gotta believe in yourself to even start.
And to keep going. Low confidence can literally stop you from even seeing an opportunity, let alone acting on it.
Plus, you need confidence to convince others, right? Investors, employees, customers.
Absolutely.
Your belief has to be somewhat contagious. Okay, next. Risk. How entrepreneurs handle risk.
The common idea is they're big risk takers. Is that true?
Not necessarily, according to the book. It's more about how they perceive risk. It's subjective.
Okay, explain that.
It's about how you weigh the uncertainty against the potential upside and downside. Entrepreneurs aren't necessarily thrill seekers. They often take calculated risks.
Especially where they feel they have an edge, like unique tech or a really different product.
Exactly. They might be wary of high-risk stuff where they don't have an edge, like opening yet another undifferentiated coffee shop.
Makes sense. And they try to reduce risk, don't they?
Yes. Lean startup ideas are all about that. Build a minimum viable product, MVP, test it, get feedback, iterate. Don't bet the farm on an untested idea. Minimize the initial investment.
Smart. Strategic risk, not reckless gambling. Okay, interpersonal skills.
Crucial. And tricky, because the book points out most of us think we're pretty good at this.
But maybe others don't always agree.
Huh, possibly. It covers the essentials. Really listening, not just waiting to talk. Responding thoughtfully, being assertive but respectful. Handling conflict by focusing on the problem, not the person. Managing anger.
All sounds like good life advice, really.
It is. but especially vital for entrepreneurs who rely so heavily on relationships to get anything done. Strong skills open doors.
And that leads perfectly into the last behavior, social capital.
Your network, who you know, it's incredibly valuable.
Friends, colleagues, contacts.
Yep. Building and actively nurturing those relationships. The book emphasizes that diverse social capital is a big predictor of startup success.
Why diverse?
Different people bring different perspectives, different information, different resources. You don't want an echo chamber.
Good point. So you should actively map your network and build it strategically.
That's the recommendation. Know who's in your circle, identify gaps, make new connections. They use Neil Blumenthal from Warby Parker as an example.
How so?
He apparently leveraged connections from his earlier work in the nonprofit world to help get Warby Parker off the ground, using his existing network.
Shows how connections from one area can unexpectedly help in another. It's all interconnected.
It really is. So, okay, let's try and pull all these threads together from our deep dive into the opportunity analysis canvas.
It feels like the big takeaway is that entrepreneurship is way more than just a clever idea.
Absolutely. It's this whole constellation of factors. The
Yeah.
mindset piece is huge. Being goal-focused, resilient, having that balanced optimism.
Yeah, and the motivation driving it, believing you can do specific things, self-efficacy, actually enjoying the problem-solving, cognitive motivation, and being okay with uncertainty, ambiguity tolerant,
And then turning all that internal stuff into external action. Behaving entrepreneurially.
which means having the confidence to try, understanding and managing risks smartly, connecting well with people through strong interpersonal skills.
And deliberately building and using your social capital, your network. It's a lot of pieces.
It is, and thinking about, your interest in getting knowledge quickly but deeply and wanting those aha moments.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully seeing how these pieces fit together, the market analysis, the personal psychology, the behaviors, provides that kind of clarity. These frameworks aren't just academic. They're tools to help you see opportunities better and make decisions more confidently.
It empowers you to be more intentional about it all, rather than just hoping for the best.
Exactly. So maybe a final thought to leave folks with, something to chew on.
Okay.
As we think about all this, the mindset, the motivation, the behaviors, consider this. Our world's changing fast, right? Traditional jobs, careers, they might look very different soon.
Seems likely.
So maybe developing these entrepreneurial skills isn't just about starting a company. Maybe it's actually about future-proofing yourself, building the adaptability, the proactivity, the resilience to navigate whatever comes next, whatever path you choose.
That's a powerful thought. It's like these are becoming essential life skills, not just business skills.
Could be. So the question to reflect on might be, looking at your own mindset, your motivations, your network, what's one aspect you could start exploring or cultivating differently starting today to be better prepared for that dynamic future?